Well, I think one of the first things we can do is prohibit American money from continuing to fund Chinese companies and their innovation and their military rise. We have companies on the commerce list, on the DoD list, on the human rights list. These companies should not have access to our capital markets. They should not have access to anybody to be able to do business in this country. But for some reason, they continue to be able to take American investor money and fund their rise. And it's like a whack-a-mole scene where we put one on an index list, they create a subsidiary, and then that subsidiary starts to get money in our capital markets. And that's why whatever Congress does, it has to be very crystal clear on the prohibition.
And that was American Securities Association President Christopher Iacovella testifying before the House China Select Committee last week on the risks that Beijing, Communist China, poses to America and American investors. Joining me now is the man himself, American Securities Association President, CEO, Christopher Iacovella. Christopher, great to have you this morning. And thanks very much for putting it so clearly in that testimony. Because we've got all these Chinese stocks trading on U.S. exchanges. A lot of people don't connect the dots that when you've got these companies that are tied to the military in China that at one point may turn their guns around right directly at America, why would we have American investors buying those stocks and funding the expansion of our number one adversary?
Well, Maria, you've hit it dead on, and thank you for having me. Andy Barr has a bill, and he's been working on it for a long time, and it's designed to get at these mainland Chinese companies that are in the technology and the military space and to get them out of our capital markets and out of the indexes. It's very important that we do this because if we don't, Wall Street will just continue its insatiable appetite for greed and fees, and it claims that it would stop if it was illegal, but each time that we try to make it illegal, they lobby very hard against everything that we try to do. And then as soon as we get something passed, like the Holding Foreign Companies Accountable Act, which was supposed to kick all of these VIE companies off the exchanges, they ask for loopholes and exemptions so that they can continue to get listing fees and new secondary issuance fees. So that's the problem.
Well, I mean, look, when you're talking with a global investor, that investor might say, OK, I want to be able to buy what I want to buy. They're not looking at the national security issues. And I'm wondering if the powers that be will be looking at these as national security issues. In fact, I raised the issue with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent just last week. Watch this. In terms of this soft war with China, we've got Chinese stocks trading on U.S. exchanges. U.S. investors are buying those stocks, and that's helping China fund its military. Let's face it. Are you willing to go that far to remove Chinese stocks from U.S. exchanges?
Maria, I think everything's on the table. We are putting in process export controls for high-value security-related goods. We are talking about the export capital controls in terms of, as you said, a blacklist of things that U.S. Whether pension funds, endowments, investors should not be investing in to fund the Chinese military machine. But that'll be President Trump's decision.
So what do you think now that the Senate confirmed Paul Atkins to lead the Securities and Exchange Commission last week in a vote 52-44, Christopher? You've said Atkins' confirmation will help the U.S. Decouple from China. What are you expecting out of Atkins?
Well, I expect Chairman Atkins to enforce the law vigorously. I think he'll take a hard look at the passive index loophole, which allows these mainland Chinese companies listed on mainland Chinese stock exchanges to have access to American capital. I think he's going to take a hard look at how companies on our exchanges and within those indexes actually interact with the prohibition lists. I mean, Maria, to get on one of these, you have to be a threat to our economic security, our national security, or our foreign policy interests. And so there's no policy reason to allow any of these companies to continue to have access to American capital, especially when they're a direct threat to our country and our people. And this is all part of the decoupling that's going on that Wall Street and the regime globalists are against. They are pushing back on it with everything they have.
But do you worry that we're going to see real retaliation? I mean, already this morning we're talking about communist China telling its airliners, don't buy any products from America. We're not going to buy Boeing planes anymore. We're not going to send rare earth minerals anymore to the United States. All of these things are critical to the U.S. So what kind of retaliation might we face if the U.S. took that drastic step? Aggressive step of removing the Chinese stocks from exchanges?
Well, I mean, I think what will happen is what the president is trying to do, which is get more business here in the United States and reassert our supply chain so that it's either in the United States or with allies. I mean, at the end of the day, you take a look at what globalization has wrought us in China. They don't have labor laws. They use slave labor in many cases. They don't have health safety laws. They don't have environmental laws. We do. And that's why the cost of doing business here is much more expensive. So either we're going to allow them to continue to cheat on the rules in the international world order, or we're going to hold them accountable. And I think this president's ready to do that.
All right. We will leave it there. Christopher, we'll be watching your work. It's great to see you this morning. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much and happy Easter.
And to you, Chris Iacovella, happy Easter.